So I was up seeing friends of mine earlier on today, and I don't go up to Edinburgh very often. I really don't. For various reasons, not least of which I really feel like shit within a matter of hours. In all honesty, I dare say if you're exposed to 5G every day, you get used to it, or you're popping various pills of some kind to help your day go a wee bit better based on something that you aren't aware of that's really causing you an awful lot of grief. And because I've gone out my way to avoid that within the limitations of funds and, all the rest of it, you just do your best. And so out of politeness and that you give a shit about the very people that you're saying hello to. And so I'm in Edinburgh and I get off a train, and the first thing that I am greeted by is, just nobody British. They're all black people. And some people would be going like, oh my God, this guy's a racist, whatever. Look, am I the only one that's noticing that even when you go into Tesco's or whatever, it's somebody else, but they're not native to the UK, and yet again, that's probably going to put people in trauma. We're being groomed into accepting that, our entire existence never happened, but constantly feel guilty about something. Just feel that your very existence is just part of history that was just not great. Yeah? Now, how do you reinforce that? Through various methods, not least of which is the experiences that you are most likely to have on a regular basis. Supermarkets, train stations, security of, but it's been turned into, well, and by the way, think about this. It never used to be a thing 4 years ago. I know people are like, oh, look, especially the young team. How would they relate? If not, so why would they relate to the experience? But there is such an importance in those who do not look and read history are doomed to repeat it. And what we're saying, the older team, is you have zero fucking idea where this is all going. You have none. There was a time not that long ago where people's day-to-day life was not worried about lunatics in cars shouting, Alan's snack bar in various parts of Europe, and not exclusively to Europe, yeah. And the solution, 15-minute cities, bollards that come up, because hey, it's not costing them. It's ultimately everything's taxpayer. It's a business, the business of enslavement. So now it's normal to have things that pop up that could probably stop a tank and whatever else. And who's getting paid for that? What companies? All the rest of it. Meanwhile, they're creating by the day the reasons to have that there in the first place. The military-industrial complex. And, well, look, ball deep in masonry and every aspect of society. Yeah. All creeds, all classes. Yeah. And as usual, I'm making no sense to most people. But I really struggle about this Nicola Sturgeon thing. It's so important to realise this. That you must have a judiciary in collusion that leaves this to after the election. One of the most important fundamental aspects of the data about the SNP is that none of them, including his wife, knew that this guy was. What does it say about their character or how well they can read people? Never mind anything else. And we're talking nearly, I mean, holy shit. What they'll admit to is £400,000. Yeah? And you've seen the vids where other people were questioning, she's just shutting it down. You know, behind the scenes, all the rest of it. And just 2 weeks after the fucking election, this guy, literally like some kind of ritualistic Masonic cuckoldry, goes, yeah, I've done this and that, you know, bag in hand, whatever, expectations. Here's how it's going to go, pal. Yeah. Meanwhile, she's writing books and I had no idea about anything. Really? Seriously, it's beyond insulting. And this is where we are. And then you see Sweeney ask a question.
Do you think that a no-comment interview is fully incorporating police?
I've got no comment to offer about police investigations.
Thanks. How would you respond to people who say that you were one of those who sought to shut down concerns about the finances back in 2021 and basically tried to get people to stop talking about it?
I'm not conscious of doing.
I'm not conscious of it. Honestly, it's, as somebody said, and I was thinking it before I even saw the comment, I was just so chuffed to see the comment. We need, well, they say an emergency general election, but we do need a general election, because if this is not, tell me something. How many bloody people out there, if they'd known any of this, would have voted SNP? Come on. Oh, 2 weeks after that. I mean, do we look at the satanic calendar or whatever? Is there some ritualistic pish? You know.
To that extent. The BBC interview with Martin Geisler in May 2021, where you said broadly that everything was fine.
Well, I think I had that answer recounted to me yesterday.
And yet again, this fucking purple shenanigans. Just look, religions, churches, whatever. Look, honestly, whatever you think runs things, think again.
And I think what I simply said was that I didn't know why the Treasurer had resigned, and that was it. I had no party office.
I had no idea about any of them. All the people, all the main players in my part, I had no idea about this. I had no idea about that. I had no idea about, you know. Seriously, come on. You can only get away with the 40 years of dumbing down through the education, in no small way, society, that this in any way flies.
Throughout this period, so I had no involvement in decisions.
I mean, people will wonder why questions weren't being asked by senior party members.
Well, I think the issue that I think I rehearsed all of this yesterday. People were operating on the basis that the party had rules in place that
they had rules in place.
Enable the regulation of all this behaviour and
all this behaviour. Think about the ultimate minimising of theft, embezzlement, treasonous scenarios when you think about it in relation to the Scottish people. Yeah. Behaviour, really?
Obviously, as we found out yesterday, the party had rules in place that would enable the regulation of all this behaviour. And
all this behaviour, honestly, this stuff. I swear, and honestly, I know I keep saying honestly way too much, but I realise that you can say too much and you could be, well, no longer here. And I mean, I've seen things in situations, in courts and outside, and some of the, honestly, the things that you would think is in power, and you've literally witnessed that it's not the case. That what you're seeing is these ideological puppets in a type of religion, but that religion is about, honestly, no jokes, about 10% of society. That's why they're so effective when you think about it. when most of the population's like, no, I wouldn't be up for this. I went, no. How the hell did they keep getting, But if you realize them as a cult, an interconnected cult of all ages, creeds, colors, whatever else, but there's an interconnected belief system at work here. Truly there is. And it is up for a one world government. Why would Western nations destroy their own military base, industrial base, so many other things? But in a new world order, you destroy all individual, anything to do with nationhood. You have a one world navy, you have a one world army, all these sci-fi sad fucks that don't get laid enough. Yeah, that find some, comfort cover, fucking thumb in mouth security about being in a pod with your fellow shipmates, meanwhile, you're trans, whatever the flying fuck. I mean, honestly, people have been groomed into the level of stupidity that I am seeing by the day. And everybody pretends to be a Care Bear while it's totalitarian, And we're now no longer primary. You're getting flogged financially in every aspect, but demonstrably being white, in other words, genuinely, by and large, Western nation, well, you're a horrible individual at a genetic level. And we're now looking at the teaching of our youngest and most innocent to be told this from day dot, and that no matter what's, genetic, biological aspect they are, male or female, they can be, that identifies whatever they like, with this propaganda all over the flying fucking walls. And it's legally in Scotland apparently the case that they not only don't tell your parents, they can't. So it's like, how the fuck is that not like the dodgy uncle, but in a governmental aspect? You no longer have teachers. You've got fucking activists that absolutely despise anything to do with what has made us so successful for thousands of years. And out of that, intellect, innovation, and obviously invention.
Yesterday, there was criminal conduct
So
involved.
the rules weren't good enough.
No, there was criminal conduct involved. The rules were perfectly clear because nobody should have been behaving in this fashion, but there was...
Nobody should have been behaving in this. I mean, it's just watered down pish. Yes, I've had a few beers today. I absolutely hands up and admit it. And people, oh, well, legally, drunk or otherwise, blah, blah, blah. But I tell you, I absolutely struggle when I'm out having a rollie. And I met so many really, great people. I look to see the best in people where there's banter, there's interaction. And I asked a couple of people, for example, what was your thoughts about the Nicola Sturgeon? And, and I'm like, honestly, it's what they came out with straight off the bat. Mentioning, for example, a certain hotel that used to be called the North British, i.e. the New Balmoral. Some people may or may not have mentioned an ashtray and glass and whatever else, and something about some French individual. And I was astounded at just how many people had heard that. Straight off the bat. Yeah. When you speak to most people, they are vastly unhappy about what's going on. But what they don't get is we're dealing with a 10% of society that is absolutely invested in where this goes. So while most people, and for good reason, maybe, that they don't vote, because ultimately voting, all it does is targets you with councils, points to where you are actually at that point, and the DVLA, credit organisations, all of it home in on that. And of course you get charged for council tax and other things. And believe me, there is a level to this. What it by and large doesn't do is give you any power. But if more and more people realise there was a network do you not think they would start making better decisions? You could play this on repeat. I don't think that's him at his best, like. And whoever his handlers are, they weren't that close.
Criminal conduct by the bypassing of those rules. And the rules were bypassed.
John, half a dozen people who asked legitimate questions, all of them to a person, have had their political careers effectively ended as...
Which part of... Yeah, honestly, I was saying to people like Bruce Scott, you know, a number of years ago, have you seen Eyes Wide Shut? And he went, no. I went, you should. So he got the DVD, gets back to me within days, and he went, holy shit. Honestly. We are dealing with an occult belief system that absolutely promotes do what thou wilt. And if you look at Eyes Wide Shut, it's like, honestly, it's a movie and a half that everybody should watch. Everybody.
As a result of those interventions, do you have no sympathy for those people who were asking the right questions, and surely they deserve an apology?
I simply say that these are very, very difficult matters because they're...
I simply say that these are very... I mean, come on Look, remember, in the last 40 years, we've gone from none of that shite would fly and he'd be out of job to... Well, we've got to think about it. Is everybody's safety, is everybody safe, and is nobody offended? And, you know, we've gone from anything to do with common sense to the worship of bullshittery, this witchcraft on steroids.
Inspired by criminal conduct, and I think in the situation...
I mean, honestly, 2 weeks after the election, no, I don't want to go to trial. No, hands up. Yes, I embezzled 400,000 quid. So, nobody's turning up to a trial. Nobody's asking fucking hard questions. You know, like, was it not obvious? You know, the fucking cars, the you know, the motorhomes, you know, the $3,000 plus fucking coffee makers, the fucking 200 quid calendars, apparently. Yeah. You know, anywhere between 500 and 800 and plus, you know, pens, but the many of them, none of that fucking, no. Nobody's asking these questions. That individual, whoever they are, we need an emergency general election. I don't need to say emergency. We need a general election. This should not fly. And I'll speak to you soon.